We have a lot of breaking news coming out of Latin America right now, but before we get to that, I would like to clarify something I had said in my earlier video about where I think it would be strategically advantageous to locate during a shit hits the fan event. State-wise, yes, places like California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, these places, but more specifically, when you dial it down, I would never recommend anyone be in a large populated area. Like, I would never recommend anyone, for example, be in Jacksonville, Florida when this happens. Terrible idea. Much better idea to be someplace out in the middle of nowhere, maybe in outside of Savannah, Georgia. Maybe, 50, 60 miles out of there would be a better choice. Even though here I say green for Florida and red for Georgia, regionally it's different. Savannah, I thought about maybe putting Georgia into a green, like a dotted green status, because they do have access to the sea and they do have ports and they do have military bases. So, yeah, be away from large groups, large population centers, no matter what you do, no matter where you're at. Being away from those centers is key. Absolutely. And I'm sorry for not being clear about that. I was speaking more in a regional context. But Latin America is absolutely on fire right now. There is a massive revolution sweeping this region, and something unthinkable has happened, and events are moving very, very quickly now in Brazil. A man named Lula da Silva, by far and away the most popular leader in the country, had been imprisoned, and it wasn't thought that he was going to be able to stand for elections in October. Well, a judge has ordered a writ of habeas corpus, meaning he gets released. And the guy in charge, basically their warden of the prison he's in, said, yeah, no, not going to do that, judge. And so they had to go to another judge. The party that Silva represents went to the streets. There are thousands and thousands of people in the streets, and will be until tomorrow morning, demanding his release, and they're watching it minute by minute. Another judge got involved and said, yeah, sorry, you absolutely do have to release this guy, and if we have to send the military down there to get him, we'll get him. So this is going to be an issue where you're going to see the Brazilian military perhaps involved, standing up against the Brazilian police, the Federales. So it's going to get ugly. It's going to get really ugly. But if Lula da Silva does in fact get released, the warden of that prison just signed his own death warrant. I don't know what he was thinking, because it's not even close in an election if he is free. And this is what it looks like. This top line is him, and this was before he went to prison. This is how popular he was. This is what they were saying it was going to be without him, and without him in the election, and who might win this Jair Bolsonaro, but not even close. Not even close. Lula da Silva will walk away with that election, and I cannot imagine being the warden of a prison that had denied his release, and then have him become president. He might as well just jump in the ocean and start swimming back for Portugal, because he'll have a better chance of making it there than he will be living very long in Brazil. But in case anybody doesn't know about the Brazilians, they are one of the most powerful militaries, not just in the hemisphere, but in the world. They are by far the most powerful military in Latin America. In fact, Global Firepower has them ranked ahead of Israel. Here we can see the size of their Air Force, their Army, their Navy. And I'll scroll back through this a little bit slower just so you can get an idea. Their big strength, of course, is their manpower. And this will give you an idea. 1.6 million reserve, 334,000 active personnel. Huge country. And we will go back real quick here to the chart. And let's see if we can find it here. There it is. Okay. U.S., Russia, China, India, France, UK, South Korea, Japan, Turkey, Germany, Italy, Egypt, Iran, and Brazil. So they are ranked 2 places ahead of Israel, 4 places ahead of North Korea, 7 places ahead of Australia, and 11 places ahead of Canada. So they're no joke. And Mr. Da Silva is aligned himself with guys like Morales in Bolivia and Maduro in Venezuela, and now with Obrador in Mexico taking power. Guys, we are looking at a major shift in Latin America. It hasn't seen this kind of unity in 100 years. Because Nicaragua is also in that mold of, it's a very different kind of socialism than what Americans are used to. It's we have a mainstream media that likes to indoctrinate this idea of socialism being a bunch of lazy people sitting around waiting for their government check, when nothing could be further from the truth. We covered this in the last video. You know, everybody pulls evenly, everybody pulls together, everybody contributes, everybody, you know, puts in. Nobody slacks, but nobody is self-interested either. Nobody creates a situation for themselves to enrich themselves at the expense of their neighbors. And that's the sentiment. That's the real big sentiment that's sweeping through Latin America right now. They want to get rid of corruption, get rid of the big globalists, get rid of Pfizer and Merck and Cargill and Chevron and all the big oil companies. They want to retake their region for their people. And this is what's happening. It's Haiti is learning a very hard lesson right now, and they're telling Americans to shelter in place because they're going to light that country on fire, because the IMF just said, okay, we're going to, in a country that can't afford it, we're going to increase the prices of gas by 50%. I mean, imagine going to the pumps tomorrow, and if they were $4 today, tomorrow they're going to be $6. And like I said, most of us would just, cuss a little bit, but we would do it. I mean, here, these people, they can barely afford it as it is. And this is what the IMF does. Argentina, Chile, all have their problems right now. They are learning the hard way about what happens when you bend the knee to globalists. And it's proving exactly what Morales and exactly what Maduro and Chavez said would happen. And we're going to see it in Colombia very soon, too. We're going to have to see how much this Duque guy has his ear to the ground, so to speak, because it's not going his way. But they're watching this very closely, and when this guy gets released, you are going to hear a shout around the world like you have not heard before. He might be the most popular leader in any country anywhere. I've never seen a country more united behind one leader anywhere in the world, willingly united behind one leader, like this guy. So we will keep an eye on this, but it's a very tense situation down there, and there's a lot of people on edge, but Mexico, Nicaragua, Haiti, Venezuela, now Brazil. Argentina is going to be next. We're going to watch that too, but I don't know how Panama stays out of this. I really don't, because eventually somebody is going to get this idea that, hey, you know what? All these big, wealthy, global elitists are enriching themselves right here. Maybe we should do something about that. And they do, and they're not going to discern between the innocent American like you and I and the American government. And maybe I never justify violence, but if we're going to look at every person with brown skin that comes to our border as an MS-13 gang member, even though MS-13 started in Los Angeles, that's another story, how can we expect people down there to look at people like you and me any different than we look at like Hillary Clinton? They're just going to see a white American. And it's not right. And it's not just. But when things fall apart like this, People don't, they shoot first, they don't ask questions. And so I would very much suggest, if you have the ability to maybe tighten some things up at home, so to speak, either monetarily or supply-wise or talking with your group, I would do so, because we're doing it here. And we're already making plans, because it's not looking good for this. And eventually, while our mainstream media is watching kids get pulled out of a cave in Thailand, our backyard is literally going up in an inferno. But we'll leave it there. God bless you all. Pray for each other. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.